Hello and welcome to the Alaska Seminar Series. My name is Valerie Stimmick-Bailey and I run the travel blog Valerie and Valise, as well as this YouTube channel with the same name and the Destination Alaska podcast. If you are listening to or watching this video or audio version, the seminar series is all about teaching you how to visit different places in Alaska and specifically what to do if you're visiting in 2026. And this is the Skagway edition. So I'm very excited to be joined once again by Wendy. She is a visitor information specialist for Explore Skagway. And this is our third time doing a video together. And it has definitely evolved over the years since we first started doing this, but I'm so excited for her to join me again and to teach us all about Skagway, what you need to know, what's new this year. She's also going to answer some questions at the end. Those are questions that have been pre-submitted by my community, but if you are watching and or listening and you have questions, here's how you can get them answered. On YouTube, you could just go to the comments, post them in the comments, and I will see them for sure. And if I don't know the answer or have a resource that I can send you to help get you the answer you need, I'll reach out to Wendy and she or someone on her team will be able to get you information. If you're listening to the audio only version, the best way to get in touch with me or with Explore Skagway is on social media. So that would be either Facebook or Instagram. And the cool part is I think we both have really simple handles and names. So for me, it's Valerie and Valise, and Explore Skagway is just Explore Skagway. So you can just search on your preferred app, reach out via DM or comment on a recent post, and that will be the way for them to hear from you or for me to hear from you. I think that just about covers it. So without further ado, I'm going to step out of the way and let Wendy teach us all about Skagway. Wendy, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Valerie. Thanks for hosting another fun Alaska travel series. I love these chats. It's just a perfect time of year to do a bit of travel dreaming, and these chats are a wonderful way for folks to discover more about the diversity within the great land of Alaska and to really learn about how our individual communities are truly unique destinations in their own right. So, so thank you for creating this opportunity for us and our visitors. Like Valerie said, I'm Wendy Anderson. I work at Explore Skagway. That's the Municipality of Skagway Visitor Department. We are a little bit different than other visitor centers in the area in that we're run by local government. And that works out great for our visitors because rather than representing just a few member businesses, we promote all the businesses in the area as equally and as impartially as we possibly can. And we are here to help our visitors find their best way to explore Skagway. So we'll start talking about my favorite Alaska town now. I wanted to start off by talking about where we are and some information about us. Skagway is located in Southeast Alaska at the very top of the longest and deepest fjord in North America. You can see from that photo on the side there, view from Upper Lake Trail. That's one of our many great hiking trails in the region, and that's overlooking the town and the Taya Inlet. As you can see, we are surrounded by just stunning scenery, and Skagway is the traditional land of the Tlingit people. For millennia, they used that 33-mile long Chilkoot Trail that reaches from the ocean up into the interior in Canada to trade with the peoples of the interior. But Skagway came into worldview back in the late 1800s when gold was discovered several hundred miles north of here. Thousands upon thousands of people flooded into this area, hoping to strike it rich. It was a dramatic time in history. There was a recession going on down south, and so people thought this was their chance to make it rich. Even the mayor of Seattle left his office and jumped on a ship to head north, to head to the gold fields. So whether they took the Chilkoot Trail or the White Pass, it wasn't easy. Neither the Chilkoot Trail or the White Pass was an easy route. They had to reach Canada to reach those gold fields, and the Canadians had put a requirement that to go into Canada, you had to bring a year's worth of supplies with you. So those stampeders weren't just making that hike up the mountain pass once. They were having to go back and forth to carry that ton of goods, and the Mounties were at the top checking them. So it was a really strenuous way to make your riches, but it was an adventure at the time. And so thousands of people came, and two towns formed. One was at the base of the Chilkoot Trail and one was at the White Pass, Skagway and Dyea. And for a while, both towns thrived, but that all changed with the building of the railroad. At that point, when the railroad was put in, Skagway became the place to be. Built in 1898, the White Pass and Yukon route is now only one of 2 railroads in all of Alaska. And for rail fans, this White Pass Yukon Route Railroad is a must-do. It is considered an engineering landmark of the world. Well, I think its official designation is International Historic Civil Engineering Landmark. And if you ride that train, you're going to see why. It's a stunning achievement. They built these tracks going from sea level and rising 3,000 feet up into those coastal mountains. And this was done back when they didn't have big equipment. You know, they were doing all of this by hand and using horse teams. And so it was in extremely cold weather temperatures. So this was an amazing achievement. And that train operated year-round as a freight and passenger train from Skagway into Canada's Yukon Territory for decades. And today it is operated as a summer-only operation, offering excursions into the coastal mountains and further into Canada's Yukon. Another piece of our Skagway history is the Klondike Gold Rush National Historic Park. They have a mission to preserve and celebrate the history of the Klondike Gold Rush. And I strongly encourage our visitors to take advantage of the great programs that they offer. They also have quite a few museums throughout town. And I especially love their movie about our gold rush history. They typically show this several times a day during the summer. And if you watch that movie and take advantage of their programs, it's going to add so much to your experience while you explore Skagway, just because having that little bit of deeper history is going to add a richness, whether you take a tour in the area or you just explore our historic district. They do ranger talks. They have a junior ranger program for kids. And that's something that if you're traveling through Alaska, take advantage of in all the parks, because they give you these little booklets. And if you fill them out and take them back, they actually have this little swearing in ceremony where you take an oath and they give you a little junior ranger badge. So it's pretty cute. And I know some families who, when they travel, that's part of their travel journey, is to collect as many junior ranger badges as possible. So that's a pretty cool program. They also have management of the Chilkoot Trail. That historic Tlingit trading route I mentioned earlier is now one of the Park Service properties, and they jointly manage it between the U.S. and Canada Park Service. It is considered the longest outdoor museum in the world due to its rich history and the fact that you can still see some artifacts from the gold rush along that route. Today, it's designated as a National Historic Trail. And you can enjoy day hikes or multi-day adventures on the Chilkoot. There's also a couple companies that offer guided hikes up the first couple miles of the trail. So it's a good way to get out there and experience that historic trail, especially if you don't have a lot of time. You can just make the most of that with a tour going out there. Another legacy of Skagway's Gold Rush history is the Days of 98 show with Sophie Smith. And that was started back in 1923. It is considered the longest running musical in the North and possibly in the whole US. We're not sure, but it is a fun vaudeville style hour-long musical that takes place in a Gold Rush era theater in town here in our historic district. And the theater is got some delightful historical elements in it. As you can see from that one photo, there's some vintage murals in the theater itself, and then within the lobby they've got a great little display that has some photos from the 100 years of the operations of the theater, and then some pictures about Sophie Smith. A little bit of history on that show is it started back in 23 when local folks wanted to raise money to buy new hockey uniforms for the local team. And back then it was just some local folks putting on a little song and dance entertainment for the cruise ship folks that were coming in way back then. And it operated with local volunteers for decades. But today it is an actual professional cast, and there's some incredibly high caliber actors and actresses that are up on that stage every summer. So it's a great little piece of Skagway history on so many levels. So I highly recommend, if you get a chance, go see the show. The show itself tells the story of the last days of Soapy Smith. He was Skagway's notorious con man, and he was killed in a shootout here on the docks of Skagway. There's actually a little marker stone on our historic district walking tour that can take you to the spot where Soapy was shot. And when you come to Skagway, you can actually visit his parlor. The picture on the one side there is his parlor, and it is now a Park Service museum display that they do guided tours of. So if you get an opportunity to tour Soapy's parlor, I recommend it because it is the craziest little museum you have ever seen. I can't describe it. You just need to go see it. So now that you've heard about some fun things you can do in our area, how do you get here? We are, again, a unique place in that we are one of 3 communities in Southeast Alaska that does have road access. So if you're planning that epic Alaska road trip, be sure to take a left off the Klondike or off the Alaska Highway to come down the Klondike, because the views down that Klondike Highway are so unique. I keep using the word stunning, but I mean, from the pictures that I'm showing you, that's what it is. This area is absolutely stunning. And the drive is only about 99 miles from the Alaska Highway down into Skagway, but you experience such a variety of natural wonders along that ride. You will not regret taking that ride. And then once you get here, we've got some RV parks. So again, if you're doing the epic road trip with your RV, we've got places for you to stay. In addition to driving here, you can take the state ferry. People often say, I want to do what the locals do. Well, the locals ride the state ferry. This is our transportation system year round. And it's a great way if you're wanting to visit all the little communities within Southeast Alaska, to just slow down a little bit, and you might even meet some locals on the way, and it just provides some pretty good service to all of our local Southeast communities. So we love our Alaska Ferry. It does offer weekly sailings between Bellingham, Washington up to Skagway, and then several different regular routes throughout Southeast Alaska and beyond in the Alaska waters. So it's a great resource for independent travelers. Independent travelers can also fly into Skagway from Juneau via Alaska Seaplanes. They offer daily flights within the region, and I'll often suggest for our independent travelers, if you're going to come to Skagway, ferry one way, or there's a small Alaska Fjord Lines, a smaller vessel that can get a little closer to the shore, and then fly back the other way, because then you're getting almost like 2 tours as you're making your way along, and you're seeing some stunning sights. I took a flight just a couple weeks ago from Juneau up here, and they flew over the ice fields. So between Skagway and Juneau, there's the Juneau ice fields. And so it's just mountains covered with beautiful snow-capped mountains and then glaciers. And it's the experience of a lifetime. I know it was when my grandpa used to come up here, that was one of his highlights, was flying up here. And then most of our visitors, the majority of our visitors, come to us via cruise ship. And there's a variety of lines that come into our area. They're all a little bit different, so do some research and see what suits you best, because there's, they're all a little bit different, and there's a cruise out there for everybody. They offer some great opportunities for multi-generational travel, so you can have that family time on the ships and then get to port, have your own adventures, and then get back together over dinner and share your adventures. And it's, it's also great for those folks who've never been to Alaska and aren't sure where to go, because you can sample a lot of different places. And then again, if you want to do that epic road trip or that independent travel later, you've kind of got it dialed in a little bit more where you might want to visit. So, and then once you get into town, we have our municipal transit system, the Smart Bus. They're going to help you get around. They operate a regular loop from the ship docks through our downtown historic district and back every 15 minutes or so when ships are in port. And then after hours and or if you want to get outside of their regular loop, they now have a on-call group shuttle taxi. So if you want to get out to see the old Gold Rush Cemetery or the beautiful waterfalls behind it, or if you're traveling independently and you need a ride from the ferry or the airport to get to your accommodations, you can give them a call and they can help you make that happen. So it's become a real helpful resource. I actually use the Smart Bus when I need to catch a flight or catch the ferry, so I'm not leaving my car in those parking lots. It's pretty useful. And so then once you're here, we do have, as I mentioned, accommodations. We do have quite a nice variety of accommodations available. Everything from, cozy cabins tucked in the woods to, quaint little historic inns. And then of course we've got a motel or hotels with, coffee bar in the lobby if that's what you need to get your morning started when you're traveling. We've also got some unique things there. In the one photo, you see a caboose. That is actually a Forest Service rental cabin. So on recreation.gov, the Forest Service has all these unique little properties all around the country. And this is one in our area that you can ride the White Pass train up to and rent this cabin through recreation.gov and actually spend the night in a vintage White Pass train car. So that's a fun experience for people to have, especially when they want to do some remote camping. So once you get to Skagway, and you're here, you're like, okay, what do I want to do? And I got to say, for a town that is only 5 blocks wide by 22 blocks long, we have a tremendous variety of things that you can do once you get to town. Tours, of course, are super popular in Alaska, and we've got everything under the sun. Adrenaline junkies can, zip through the rainforest on a zip line or zoom through the ocean on an ocean raft tour. There's a lovely array of sit back and relax sightseeing options like the sailboats that have come to town. And then there's bus and van tours that will get you up that Klondike Highway and provide you a tour driver to kind of explain some things that you're seeing along the way. The photo in the very top there is a picture of the Carcross Desert. It's the smallest desert in the world that's up in the Yukon. And so, that's a popular spot for a lot of folks to go visit. Again, like I said, there's a ton of unique sites along that Klondike Highway, and that's just one of them. There's also flight seeing available in our area, both helicopter or fixed wing flights that you can take in the area. And electric bike tours have popped up as well. So if you want to feel adventurous, but also want a little guidance while you're getting around, that's a super fun option to explore our area. And if you want some help sorting through those tour options, the municipality of Skagway does have an official tour broker. That's M&M Tours. Back in the day, you might have been to ports where you come into port and there's all these people at the dock saying, take my tour, take my tour. We had them back in the day and they referred to it as the shark pit. So our city decided that it wanted to get away from that super competitive, kind of unpleasant experience for our visitors, and they created this tour broker position that M&M Tours fills now. And so you can go up to their kiosk if you're planning a late minute tour, or give them a call in advance if you want to do some advanced planning, and they can help you sort through some of those tour options. Again, trying to be as impartial and fair as possible to all the options. So it's a good, like I said, impartial source of information for you. Going on your own has become more and more popular in the last few years, and Skagway does have electric bike, scooter and car rentals available. So you can get out on your own and explore. We are considered the gateway to the Klondike, and so that Klondike Highway is gonna get you up there to see some spectacular sights. If you are going to do the Klondike Highway on your own, I encourage you to swing by our visitor center and pick up one of our guides, because our visitor guide has a mile by mile guide in it about the Klondike Highway. So as you're going past that lake, that waterfall, that point of interest, it's going to actually explain to you what you're seeing. So it's just going to, again, add a little bit of depth to your experience. And if you decide to rent a car or a bike or any kind of excursion option to get out on your own, please be smart. I know these talks are supposed to be super fun and get you inspired about traveling, but something that has become increasingly prominent in our area is we need to educate people about how you safely travel our roads and how you view our wildlife. We all love seeing bears along the side of the road. I know I do. And porcupines and fox actually are my top favorite things to see. And, I always want to stop and look, but be aware that, they get stressed when you do this. So, if you're going to view it, take some time and view them, but keep moving on. And please stay in your vehicles because these are wild animals. They look super cuddly. And I know the first time I saw a bear, I wanted to go up and just give it little squishies and say, "Oh, cute bear." Don't do that. Don't do that at all. Don't feed the wildlife. We got a phrase around here, a fed bear is a dead bear, because when bears get accustomed to humans, they become a danger to both themselves and the humans, and they typically end up being put down, or more and more frequently, they're hit by cars on the road. So please just practice safe wildlife practices. Also, the roads around here, if you're coming from a city and you've got a 4-lane highway that you drive every day, our roads aren't going to seem like a highway at all. It's going to seem like a little side road, but these are active roads with big buses and fuel trucks running down them. So if you are going to stop and do some wildlife viewing or look at some beautiful sights, please pull fully off the road and be smart about what you're doing on our highways. So that's the end of my service announcement for that. Thank you for listening. And you don't have to get out of the valley at all if you don't want to. There's tons that you can do in our little valley here. We've got a walking tour, a couple of different options for that. If you want to dive a bit deeper into our history, the Red Onion Tours offers walks led by actors dressed as 1898 style madams. They call it their Ghosts and Good Time Girls walking tour, so it can be a little bit saucy, but it's a lot of fun. And if folks want to do something on their own, or they might be working on a budget, we do have a self-guided walking tour in our visitor guide and online. So you can grab one of those and you can get out into our historic district and just explore on your own. And again, it just helps you learn a little bit more about our history as you're walking through this unique downtown area. That walking tour is going to take you past some of the many museums that you can find in our area. In addition to the Park Service museums that I mentioned earlier, we do have 2 private museums that are open to the public in our downtown, and our city museum. And it's located in the oldest stone building in Alaska. So even just seeing that building is pretty cool. So most of them are free. And so just exploring our downtown area, doing that walking tour, that's going to actually take up a good chunk of time for your day in Skagway. And that walk is also going to help you discover some of the art in our area. This is a great destination for art lovers. Our downtown is filled with a lot of outdoor artwork, like the mural you see there. I think we saw one of the statues earlier. And folks have a good time, posing with those. And it's just a fun opportunity for photos and for doing selfie shots along the way. We also have a vibrant arts community here, and that can be showcased at some of our local galleries around town. If you really want to support local creators, you can look for that Made in Skagway symbol on some of the store windows, because that's a sign that they sell some of the materials that are made by our local creators. Now, not every store is going to have this in their window, or not every person who creates in Skagway is going to be part of that program, just because it is a program that those artists have to apply for. So if you have questions about something that you're looking at in one of our stores, just talk to the store owners and see, what the background of those artists are, because there is quite a variety, but there is also a lot of people creating in our area, and some great stories behind those artworks. The picture in the middle there is of some gold work that an artist in town here, Bruce Schindler, creates. He has a business called Chasing Mammoth, and he came up here 30 some years ago and started out as an ivory carver, and he has now moved into creating gold pieces from the mines up in the Yukon. And his latest adventure is partnering with Parker Schnabel, who is, there's a ton of TV shows about Alaska, and Parker has one about this gold mine that he runs out of the north. So they are partnering to create a limited edition gold jewelry line that you can find. And it's some very unique pieces of art, just beautiful gold pieces. So we're also a fun spot for families. There's a lot of things, again, that you can do just walking around our valley. Just a short walk from the port, you're going to encounter the Pullen Creek Stream Walk. That is a lovely little path that follows the stream, and there's these little signs all along the way that talk about the wildlife of the area. And that stream is actually a salmon spawning stream. So if you time it right in July or August, there's a couple weeks there where salmon are actually coming up that stream. So if you get lucky, you'll see that. But if not, even just walking around it is just a lovely little dose of nature in between the port and the downtown area that you can enjoy. And some of those signs are actually designed with like dials and little lifting levers so that they're designed to engage kids and help kids learn about the natural area. So we also have our city museum. They do a great little scavenger hunt in there. When you walk in, you can ask them for this little one-sheeter that just has things like Find the Bear or the Tlingit Canoe. And so it helps make engaging in history fun for those kids going through the museum. And especially on days when you might have a little bit of rain, that's a great experience for kids. And then outside the museum, just recently, they've installed this train. This was a working engine for the White Pass Yukon Route Railroad back in the day, and now it's a display that they've got some platforms where you can actually climb onto the train and kind of poke around, pretend you're an engineer on the train if you want to. And then it's located right next to Molly Walsh Playground. You just cross a little bridge over the stream and you're right at the other one. One of my favorite things to do with our visitors who have kids coming into our center is to show them this little sign I have. I have this little card that just says playground because I don't want to say the word out loud in case they can't go. But I'll show them this thing and parents will just get this beautiful smile on their face because they know that they can take their kids there to burn off some energy. There's some picnic tables there. So if you wanted to grab some food to go from one of our local eateries, you could have a nice little picnic in the park there while the kids run around. And that area in the 6th and 7th Avenue area is actually developing into being a real nice spot for families between the playground, the museum, and the train there. Additionally, the Skagway Traditional Council has opened a Skagway Cultural Center that's just right by the museum there. So for older kids, there's some great experiences going in there to see the artwork and learn more about our First Nations cultures. And then right down 7th Street, we have a trapeze that has opened up. The Gold Rush Trapeze might not be something that you think immediately for kids, but they actually have been doing some kids training things in there, and our local kids have been having a great time going to the trapeze and flying through the air, and it's this outdoor experience. So you've got the mountains all around you as you're soaring through the air. So like I said, it's that north end of our business district is really developing into a nice little space for families to head up to. So after you go adventuring, another thing for families is we've got some great trails. You can pop into our visitor center. We've got a trail map that you can pick up. You can talk to our visitor information specialists about what trail might be perfect for you. Right off our downtown area, we've got 2 different trails One's a nice flat, mellow walk that goes out to the point where you can have some beautiful ocean views. It's very relaxing. There's also a whole mountainside full of trails called the Dewey Lakes Trail System. And the larger photo there is at the very top between Upper Dewey Lake and the Devil's Punch Bowl. That's for the more adventurous folks who are looking for a strenuous hike. But whatever you're looking for, we've got a hike that can get you out there enjoying nature very quickly in our area. So after all that adventuring, you're probably going to want to grab some food. And people always say, what's your favorite? Where should we go? And they're always frustrated when we say, well, it's all good. But it's true. Our restaurants, we have some very high quality restaurants. Everybody, of course, wants the seafood experience, and we've got multiple places from waterfront dining to outdoor picnic table style eateries where you can enjoy our local seafood. Food trucks are a growing scene in our area. The one that you see there with Godzilla and the reindeer sausage is one that just opened last summer. That's the Weenie Wagon. And they've got, in addition to some gourmet hot dogs, they've got fun little attraction things like their Godzilla and some cutouts that you can do photo ops there at their property. And one of my favorite things, I'm a vegetarian, so the aeroponic garden at the Skagway Brewing Company is one of my favorite things in town. They actually grow their own greens on site at their building. And so it's just some of the freshest, tastiest greens you're ever going to enjoy. Our restaurants are awesome, and you just can't go wrong with any of them. If you're trying to make up your mind, we do have a book of menus in our visitor center. So we update this every spring. So if you want to come in and just peruse through the menus, you can see what they're offering and what the price points are on them, and make your mind up from there. In addition to regular foods, we've got also the sweet treats. If you're on vacation, it's okay to indulge. One of my favorites is the Cone Company there. I shouldn't say favorite, they're all pretty darn good. But my favorite kind of small town Alaska story about this Cone Company is when they open every spring, kids will line up to be the first in line when they open. Back in my day, it used to be that you'd line up to get concert tickets or something. This is the Skagway kids version of, every spring, like some of the kids actually will camp out overnight so that they can be the first ones in the door to get their ice cream cone. So, just a little piece of small town Alaska life. For the over 21 crowd, Skagway is home to 2 breweries and a distillery. And their beverages are made with some of the tastiest glacial-fed water you will ever enjoy. The Skagway Spirits Distillery makes a gin and a vodka that you can purchase either at our local liquor store, or you can actually go to their distillery and have a cocktail crafted with some of the local botanicals. They do some interesting creations over there, like fireweed cosmos or a spruce tip gin and tonic. Or even a rhubarb Collins. So very Alaska specific cocktails to enjoy over there. And both breweries do an array of brews every year. And they also both do a spruce tip ale that is actually made from spruce tips, trees. And that sounds weird when you first hear about it, but it is actually delicious. If you get an opportunity to try anything with spruce tip, I would say go for it. There's some local jellies you can purchase. There's another place that does milkshakes made with spruce tip. It's a real unique flavor, and it's just a lovely thing to enjoy. The history on spruce tip ale is Captain Cook, when he was sailing up around these areas, he started making it for his sailors, because a big problem for sailors is scurvy. And spruce tips are very high in vitamin C. The Tlingit people used to make tea from it to help fill some of their vitamin C needs. Well, of course, the sailors, they made beer. And so that's how they got their vitamin C, to prevent scurvy. So when you have a spruce tip ale, you can say you're doing it for your health. As you're planning your visit, some of the things you might want to plan around if you're traveling independent is what kind of events you might encounter along the way. Right now, we're getting geared up for our Yuletide celebration. We do a month-long celebration in December that kicks off with a tree lighting in the downtown area. White Pass and Yukon route hosts a Santa train experience every year where Santa actually comes in on the train and kids get to meet Santa at the train station. And then they go take a ride in the winter landscape of the coastal mountains with Santa. So that's Yuletide. We also have a Garden City Market where our local artisans once a month put on a market, April through, well, basically December. There's a market every month that you can enjoy. And then there's tons of sporting events. Softball tournaments happen every summer. There's a couple running races, including a marathon. I know for a lot of folks who do marathons, doing a marathon in every state is a goal. So just know you can come to Skagway and run a marathon. And then, of course, we have all sorts of arts performances. Our local arts council is regularly hosting events either in buildings here in town, or we have an outdoor amphitheater at the north end of town where we have some outdoor concerts every year, as well as a Pride Festival and a Solstice Festival out there. So some fun outdoor experiences to enjoy. And as you are planning your visit and have more questions, get in touch. We've got a great website that lists all these different businesses I've been talking about. So feel free to peruse through that if you're wanting to know, what is local and what you can do when you're in our area. You can also call or email us directly, and I would be happy to chat with you about all things Skagway when you're planning your visit. And then once you're in town, like I've mentioned before, we've got that visitor guide with the walking tour, hiking information, and a mile-by-mile guide of the Klondike Highway that you can pick up. And that is our building right there, that driftwood covered building. It's got over 8,000 pieces of driftwood on it. So we are pretty easy to spot. Just look for the building covered in driftwood. Our 2026 visitor guide is scheduled to come out in December. So you can order that in advance as well. And it'll have all those helpful pieces of information in it. It also has information about our Skagway video and photo contest. So if you're out there or if you have visited in the past, we've got our current contest going on right now. So please send us your beautiful photos, because a lot of the images that you've seen in this talk actually came from some of those photos that people have submitted from when they traveled in our area. So please share your favorite images with us. We really appreciate it. And then new for this year, we're going to have a visitor satisfaction survey in there as well. So if you want to give us some feedback about what we're doing well or what we could do better, again, please let us know. You can also find more about us on social media. You can find us on Instagram, on Facebook, all the usual sites. And if you want to do some dreaming, got some pretty pictures up there for you to enjoy. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much again, Valerie, for providing this opportunity to share a little more about our beautiful town of Skagway. Like I said, I love talking about this place. I came here over 30 years ago, and I've thought about leaving. I've thought about finding other places, and I've just never found a spot that I like as much as Skagway. So I hope you come, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do.
Thank you. That was amazing. I love seeing the photos of Skagway. So if you are listening to the audio only version, you should check it out on YouTube, because it's fun to see the photos, because I have so many similar photos from when I've been in Skagway. And if you're curious, there's a couple, I had a little couple hints. I take notes whenever I'm doing these, because I'm taking my own notes for the next time I come to visit. You did mention waterfalls behind the Gold Rush Cemetery. Mm-hmm. The cover image for this video, if you are watching on YouTube, or the cover of this episode on the podcast, that is one of those waterfalls. And it is a really accessible hike. You have to do the work of getting out there by way of the shuttle bus. But once you're there, it's a very easy hike for a great payoff, which is my favorite kind of hike. And then I do want to say, you're allowed to say favorite for ice cream, because Alaskans love ice cream. So I don't think that gets you in any trouble. I think it's just an acknowledgement of how much Alaskans love ice cream, and your story about kids lining up even made that clearer to everyone.
You know, what's funny you mentioned that is the reason that that family opened that ice cream business was they were doing some research to figure out, what kind of business should we open up? And they came across a statistic that Alaskans per capita eat more ice cream than anyone else in the nation.
Yep.
So we
Yep.
like our ice cream.
Yeah, there's good ice cream in every town. There's usually really good pizza in every town. There's good
Mhm.
coffee in every town. And those are all statistics that Alaskans have like a much higher consumption rate than the average American, which, hey, whatever gets you through the long days and the long nights.
It's good stuff. Why not?
So we have some questions. As I mentioned at the top, these were pre-submitted. So if you have your own questions, you're watching on YouTube, you can put them in the comments, or you can reach out on social media to me at Valerie Valise or to the Skagway Visitor Department on their various social medias. Just let us know what you need to know, and we'll try and get you the info that you're asking about. But here are the questions that I have in advance. This is a great one, actually. I think I hear this one a lot because I think you were right to identify that people are increasingly kind of like wanting to do it themselves. And so maybe they don't immediately commit to a cruise excursion. They do a little more research. And maybe by the time they realize what they want to do, which is almost always the White Pass and Yukon Route Railway, it might be sold out in their cruise line through their cruise line. So can you talk to me about, like, if it's sold out for a cruise line, is it sold out for real? Is there still a way to see if there's availability, and what would you recommend?
If it is sold out on your cruise line, you can try contacting the White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad directly. Their website is wpyr.com. They also have an 800 number on their website that you can reach out to them. So you can see if potentially they have some openings. They can help you get in there. Yeah, it has become an incredibly popular, well, it's always been a popular excursion because it's the history and just the scenery is incredible. But also, so many people are coming to Alaska now, and for excursions in general, if you have your heart set on doing something, I strongly recommend booking in advance, booking as soon as possible, because if excursions that have a lower capacity or are just extremely popular, like helicopter rides, anything to do with sled dogs, those sell out.
Yep.
And so do your research, figure out what you want to do. But if, like I said, if your heart is going to be broken because you don't get on that train ride, book as soon as you can, contact the companies directly if you can't get it through your ship, or reach out to me. Sometimes the things that they're selling on the cruise ships are combination tours that blend many different companies' products together. So I can help you. Maybe, I can't guarantee it, but I can see if we can't figure out something for you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And actually, I think we'll probably talk about this in all of the cruise port cities, destinations that I talk to this year. But I do want to call out, I know I did this in the Juneau video as well, that Alaska does work a little bit differently than other cruise destinations, where in that the vast majority of cruise excursions are run by local Alaskan operators. So there's sometimes this kind of like, do I book it through my cruise line, or can I book it directly from the company? And is that supporting the local economy? Both. Like they're working with local operators. But I believe that at least the last time I was in Skagway, they usually have a limited availability for independent travelers on the White Pass. So giving them a call and giving any Alaskan business a call is the best way to get business done. So just give them a call and see for the specific day you're going to be there on your cruise, and hopefully they can help you. Yeah. Let's talk about, I got another excursions question, and this is one I actually don't know. So I love these questions because I'm always learning too. I know there are Alaskan cruise ports that are kind of known for fishing. Skagway does not pop to the top of my head on that list. So are there options for fishing? What kind of fish are available? Or is this something that's maybe better suited for another destination?
Skagway does have a couple fishing charters that operate out of our port. So you, again, it's one of those things that is pretty limited availability. So if you're wanting to do some fishing excursions, definitely book in advance on those. But yeah, if you go to our website, skagway.com, you are going to be able to find those fishing excursion operators.
What kind of fish do you normally have? Salmon. We said there's a salmon creek that
Salmon,
runs right into town.
Yep, and a bit of halibut as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So there's good options. Okay, let's do one more question. This is one from Lynn, and I love how much time you dedicated to the Klondike Highway. And I was sitting here and I was like, oh, I don't think I connected in my head because I've driven the Klondike from Whitehorse to Dawson City, which is the longer northern portion of the highway to connect to the Klondike Goldfields because that's where they are. But I don't think I had ever put in my brain, or I've forgotten because I have too much Alaskan trivia, that that's also the Klondike that runs to Skagway. Of course, that makes sense now that you've told me that. So this is the Klondike Highway, and it goes to this place called Emerald Lake, which is one of the very scenic lakes, alpine lakes along the route. How is that drive? Like, is it somebody could rent a car themselves and they don't need extra gear or anything?
Yep. So the Klondike Highway is a good road.
Cool.
People a lot of times when they're thinking about roads in Alaska, they have those horror stories from the early days of the Alcan Highway where they said, bring fuel cans and extra tires, and it's not that way anymore.
Good.
It's a good road. You don't need any special four-wheel drives or anything to do that road. You can just head on up there. It's like I said, it is a two-lane road that is heavily used both by our visitors as well as regular commerce. The Emerald Lake is about 75 miles from Skagway, and like I said, that is just beautiful scenic driving all along that route. People sometimes will say, can I go on to Whitehorse? And you can. It's mostly tree-lined highway between Emerald Lake and and Whitehorse. So, it's still pretty driving, but kind of the unique vistas are between Skagway and that Emerald Lake. There's good pullouts and interpretive signage along the way that you can enjoy. And then, as I mentioned, we've got that mile by mile guide. So if you are going independently, grab that mile by mile guide because that's going to help you fill in some of the blanks in what you might see along the way. There are a couple tour operations between here and the first town or settlement that you find is called Carcross. That's about 60 miles up the road. There's the Yukon Suspension Bridge that has a nice restaurant and then a viewing platform about 30 miles up the road. And then Michelle Phillips, who is she's actually, I think she's done the Iditarod quite a few times now, but she's got a sled dog operation about, I want to say about 40 miles up the road between Skagway and Carcross that you can pop into. So if you had looked for sled dog excursions in Skagway and couldn't find anything, you might be able to drive up there and go check out her operations. She does a real nice job. And then again, you're supporting a racer who is actually going to be participating in the Iditarod sled dog race, which is kind of fun.
I do have two follow-up questions. One is easy, so let me just confirm. The Klondike Highway is open in the winter, so if somebody's doing their own winter adventure, which is a thing people are increasingly doing, they can make it there. That's cool. You're nodding, so I'll say that that's a yes. And then my second question is, at what mile is the international border crossing?
So the international border is only about 14 miles up the road, but the border crossing, where you actually go through customs, is about 20 miles up the road.
Okay.
So the U.S.-Canada border, where we are, is at the very peak of the mountain. And I know, like most places, that when you cross the border, they have the one country's border station and then the other country's border station right next to each other. Well, where our border is, you get some pretty dramatic weather, especially in the wintertime. But even in the summer, it can get socked in with fog and such. So our border stations are quite a few miles from the actual border.
Okay.
But you do want to respect the fact that you are entering another country. Legally, if you even just cross that line, you are supposed to continue on to clear customs before doing any adventuring in that area. Other than that, so it's just a little different.
Yeah, so that's that means, if you want to do that, bring your passport. You need a passport. It's no longer an option to not have your passport aligned. I do believe Canada now has, for some nationalities, they have kind of a pre-visa, kind of similar to what's happening in the UK and Europe. So if you are not, I also don't know this particularly, but if you are not an American and you're watching this, double check in case you need something. And then that means if you are not allowed to go to Canada, because there are some travelers who might arrange a visit to Skagway and not be allowed to go to Canada, you cannot go past mile 14. So just be aware that when you reach the summit, you should turn around because you're officially where you are not supposed to be. Yeah, that's a really helpful logistics bit.
And one other thing to think about is because the border stations are not at the border, like if you don't have a passport, you can't go past the US border station because even if you go to the US border line, you will be crossing back through the US border station.
And you need your passport
And
for
they
that.
don't know where you've been. You know,
Yeah,
even though you
yeah,
swear I have not left the country, they
yeah.
have no way of verifying that. So they require you have identification for crossing into the United States,
Yeah.
even if you didn't cross into Canada. So
Yeah, and that's
again,
yeah.
it's just a little different around here. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really good to keep in mind too, as Customs and Border Patrol on the U.S. side has gotten a lot more stringent as well. So if you don't have your passport, when you get to the top of the mountain, do a safe turnaround and come back down and hang out in Skagway for the rest of your time. Yeah, just an interesting logistic that I do occasionally get questions about. So when we were talking, I was like, I haven't driven the Klondike Highway since 2006 when my family moved out of Alaska, so I don't remember exactly, but I know that it being one of the few Southeast communities that is accessible. Same with Haines. Haines is a very similar situation on the Haines Highway. It's a really kind of there's times where you don't know where you are, which country you're in, and that can get you in trouble. So it's best to just understand what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. Okay, well, we will wrap things up there. Again, if you have any other questions, post them in the comments on YouTube or reach out on social media if you're listening to the audio only version, though I'd strongly encourage you to come over to YouTube just to see all the beautiful photos. You can put it on in the background while you're cooking dinner or something like that, and just it'll really saturate your brain with Skagway information. And then I just will say thank you so much, Wendy, for joining me for the third year. It's so exciting. I'm so glad we've been able to keep making this happen.
Me too.
Sorry,
it's just nice to share that information with folks. And
Yeah.
also, I love your enthusiasm. You know, you can tell you grew up in Alaska and you love our state. And it's just, you're such a wonderful ambassador for people visiting our state. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.